Massive chemistry is oftentimes trauma recognizing itself in another person. Welcome to the Connection Catalyst podcast, episode number 15, where we're going to talk about trauma bonding and what it is. My name is Karolina. I'm the Connection Catalyst, and I've gone through some trauma bonding in the past. I will tell you some examples from my own life, and I want to explain this concept very clearly so that you can recognize this pattern when it shows up. In the moment of trauma, our consciousness oftentimes splits into different parts of our psyche. So, for instance, when my father shouts at me, I will have a part of me that is maybe scared of him. Maybe one part of me might be angry at him. And then one part of me will actually become like him. And I will adopt it in my subconscious mind in order to prevent me from having this kind of situations of disconnection in my further life. So then I will internalize my father. So one part of me will be my vulnerable child that is, for example, scared, and one part of me will be my inner father that becomes my inner critic, who will always tell me what I'm doing wrong before my father even gets to tell me that. So that's how our parts are created when our consciousness splits in traumatic moments. And then when we suppress or disown or reject or deny some of these aspects of us, these parts of our psyche, we then feel attracted to them in other people, or we feel massive amounts of hate towards other people. It can go both ways. So when we are massively attracted to someone and it's like almost overwhelming and it's almost like too much, there is a big chance that it's actually trauma bonding and not peaceful, grounded, stable love for long-term partnership. So if we are, for example, suppressing the part of us that is confident, we are going to be really drawn to people that are confident. But also, if we are, for example, a victim, then we are going to be a vibrational match to a rescuer. If we are a people pleaser, we're going to attract narcissists. If we are an avoidant attachment style, we're going to attract anxious attachment style. I will talk about people pleasing, narcissism, and attachment styles in my further episodes. So if someone doesn't know these concepts, subscribe, stay tuned, because I will explain all of it. So I, for example, had this moment in my life where I got so attracted to a guy that I saw on stage. He's a music producer and a drummer, and I saw him on stage and I fell so hard. It was probably like around 4 years ago. And wow, I was like a teenager. Like within the first few hours, I had 2 poems written about him already. Then I wrote different songs about him and so on. And even though he pretty much friend-zoned me from the get-go, I still felt this like massive, almost obsessive attraction towards him. And then at some point, after like maybe half a year or 5 months friendship, he cut me off. He said it doesn't flow from his side and he doesn't want to be friends anymore. And that triggered my abandonment wound from childhood and my anxious attachment style, of course, as well, because anxious attachment is linked to abandonment wound. And I felt in my whole body that this guy was there to trigger the shit out of me in my life. And of course, like I met him a few months ago here on the island in Koh Phangan in Thailand, and we are friends and we are cool. And it's been years ago and we've healed and so on. We are different people. But the point is, when you're like obsessed with someone, when you're so attracted, it's almost unimaginable. And when you're like really thinking about this person all the time, this is not really healthy, because that means that you really are so attracted to something that you suppress within that it doesn't come from a place of wholeness, this big ass attraction. So if we are bonded by trauma, usually it's the other person reflecting what's in us. So, like for example, I am a joyful person, so I often attract men that suppress their joy for the sake of getting shit done. And they are usually the confident ones. And in the past, I used to be very not confident. And I was a people pleaser as well. So most men that I would attract would be more on like a spectrum of narcissism. Sometimes bigger dose, sometimes micro dose, depends. But it's always like the polarity that attracts each other, right? In the same way where when I'm in my feminine energy, I'm going to attract the person that is more in his masculine, and so on. So if I had an abandonment wound from childhood, I'm gonna feel attracted to all the men that will abandon me, which actually happened until the end of last year, that I kept attracting these men that kept abandoning me. And I mean, like, people, because a lot of these men told me, oh yeah, we can be friends after our romance or after the relationship, and then they cut me off completely, which then triggered my daddy issues. And now, when I'm dating a man, it feels so at peace because I actually feel completely detached. Even if he tells me tomorrow that we break up, like the whole connection, and cut me off, I'm actually okay with that. But I needed to go through this whole cycle of like crying my eyes out after my dad, really, because it's not about these guys, it's about what happened in my childhood, in order to get to the place where I feel at peace and I feel that no matter what happens, I'm okay, because everything is temporary, every relationship is temporary. Even if it's for the next 50 years, it's still temporary, right? Because it's going to end at some point. So right now, I'm feeling actually safe with this person that I'm dating, and my nervous system is not as agitated, and I'm also not as obsessed. And of course, I think about them, and of course, I still have like hormones, like oxytocin, and all this flyings on the wings of love and honeymoon effect and all these things. But it's not to that extreme as I used to have with other people. Because if it's trauma bonding, it feels super passionate, super intense, really quickly. But then we realize that the longer we go into this relationship, the patterns of toxic relationship dynamics start to come up, and then the whole relationship is actually not beneficial for us. And why does it even feel good, this toxic dynamic that we enter? Well, because intensity sometimes feels familiar to us, right? And then, for example, if your mother was an abuser, you're going to keep attracting the women that are abusive, and it's going to feel safe to you because it feels familiar to the nervous system, because this is what you're used to in your childhood. So in order to change the people that you're attracting, you need to heal your own emotional patterns. And sometimes we are so closed in our identity loop, like we are the strong one, for example, so we can bear the abuse, or we are the fixer, the rescuer. We take these women that don't do anything in their life, and then we have to provide everything for them as a man, and then try to fix them, try to rescue them, or take very, very young women under our wings. I don't know if it's a saying in English, but it's in Polish, and just take good care of them, because this is what we saw in our childhood. So it's not really the person that you're attracted to, it's who you get to be in that relationship dynamic. This is what you're attracted to, because this feels familiar. So in order to change it, we need to go and change these patterns in our subconscious mind, rewire the childhood experiences, release the emotional charge, and change how these experiences were encoded in our body, in order to start being a vibrational match to someone different. Once we are aware of the trauma bonding pattern, we can actually break it, even with questions like, okay, what part of me is this person representing that I suppress or I don't allow? Or what belief about relationships is this person confirming for me? And then when we start asking these deep questions, we might break the way of thinking, we might break the pattern. And if we are an overgiver and we attract the overtaker, then we might be like, okay, what is my boundary in giving? Do I actually really want to give more? And when enough is enough of giving, for example, yeah? So we need to integrate all these suppressed parts that were rejected, disowned, denied, stemming from trauma, back into ourselves, so that we become whole, and then we stop attracting the rejected parts and stop being like amazingly, super obsessively attracted to someone, but it will feel more like peace when we attract someone safe and someone that we can have a healthy relationship dynamic. So to sum it up, trauma bonding is when you keep attracting people based on your trauma, and actually them based on their trauma as well, and then leading to the dysfunctional dynamic. And like, it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you have a belief, for example, as a woman, that your father is an asshole, so men are assholes and so on, who are you going to attract? Your brain will only focus on the people that are assholes, because this is familiar, and that's also your belief. So unless you change your belief, unless you change your perception of men, you're going to keep attracting people that treat you like shit. That's for women, but for men it's the same, right? So it's not about blaming ourselves. Okay, I have all this trauma, now I have to fix it and so on. But it's about taking responsibility for who we attract and then changing it. Because the pattern, when you keep attracting the same kind of person over and over again, it's not out there, it's internal. So it's an internal game to change it. And I just want to mention that the goal is not to fully stop attracting these kind of people into your life that don't fit you, or they are assholes or whatever else, right? Because we might still attract them from time to time. There might be still some unhealed parts of us that need to be integrated. But the more we integrate them, the less frequently we're going to be a match to these kind of people. So the point here is to integrate. And through the process of parts work, whether facilitated by you or by a person like me or anyone else, we can actually get to know what these parts need and why I am attracted to this kind of person. So how we can do it is, when we do parts work, we sit and we say, okay, now I take on the part of me that is exactly like that person, that is whatever, that I'm attracted to or that I hate. And then I go into this part and I see what kind of traits are reflected in this person that are actually mine. And when I integrate it within, when I express all the roles, needs, desires, emotions, and values of the part, then via integration and resolving the internal conflict and actually seeing this part and taking it as a part of us, we can completely interrupt the pattern and not attract this kind of person anymore. So our goal here is to stop being available for this kind of dynamic. So when you recognize yourself being like obsessed with someone when you meet them, know that it's probably trauma bonding. Question yourself, do the parts work, parts integration process, integrate the parts of you that are like them, and then see if you even like this person after you've healed your pattern. Because it might be that when you heal it, when you integrate it, you're not attracted to this person anymore, which happened for me with this guy I told you I was obsessed about for a few months, right? And then it never happened to me again, that I was like a crazy teenager. And I hope it's never going to happen again, because I've already healed these parts of me. I've already expressed this inner teenager in me, and I don't have to do it anymore. I don't have to be so obsessed about anyone ever again. So I wish the same for you, and I wish you safe relationships. And if you feel like you might be in this pattern, please comment below. Maybe I can give you a piece of advice. And if you have more questions about anything that I said, feel free to send them to my email, theconnectioncatalyst@gmail.com. And if you want to know more about me, you can find me on my website, karolinakuraj.com. Karolina with K, Kuraj.com. Thank you so much for being here with me, for listening, and stay tuned for further episodes about attachment styles, narcissism, people pleasing, and other relationship dynamics. Thank you, and have a beautiful rest of your day.